Tadekam smaramas-tadekam bhajamaha. Tadekam jagat sakshi rupam namamaha. Sadekam nidhanam niradambamisham. Bhavam bodhipotam sharanyam vrajamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. On that alone do we meditate, that alone do we worship, to that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow, to that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of samsara, do we come for refuge. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see all of you today. And our topic today is where peace. We all have an intuitive sense of peace, of what is peace. We experience it now and then. Perhaps we come to a peaceful place, a place of worship like this. We go to a beautiful place of natural beauty. We hear some beautiful music. We have a nice deep sleep. We have a good meditation. We taste some peace. Yet, it doesn't last, does it? Peace seems to evade us. We taste a little peace and then it slips again out of our grasp. It's so fragile. It seems like we, human beings, ought to be able to live in peace. We ought to be able to live together in peace without quarreling, without fighting. And yet, look at the world. It's a tragic, utterly tragic, burning with war and conflict. Rodney King, when the verdict came to acquit the officers who beat him, and then the whole of Los Angeles erupted in riots, and he asked, I just want to say, can we all get along? And the answer still seems to be no. How many wars and armed conflicts are raging? I just looked it up. In 2016, there were 4 wars raging with more than 10,000 deaths in the year 1916, 10 raging with deaths between 1 and 10,000, 29 going on with deaths between 100 and 1,000, and 15 with up to 100 deaths. That's a total of 58 armed conflicts going on, uncounted deaths, immeasurable suffering. In the total deaths in the Afghanistan war, maybe 1 to 2 million. 1.6 million estimated deaths since 2004 in Burundi and Congo, in a war that I never heard about till I researched it yesterday. 500,000 in Somalia, nearly that many in Syria. It goes on. It's an utter tragedy, really. Countless broken hearts, broken dreams, broken nations, unimaginable suffering. So no wonder Swami Vivekananda would say, the world is burning with misery. Can you sleep? Can you sleep? Even in this country, if we look at this country, which doesn't seem to have a major armed conflict raging within its borders, we find conflict and aggression everywhere, anger everywhere. We find a lot of armed conflict in families and in the streets of the cities. We have a devastation of homelessness, of addiction, of poverty. The more we look, the less peace we seem to find. Wherever we have 2 people, we have a clash and conflict. How many broken families, how many fallings out between good friends. And even if we don't find that much unrest externally, if we look within, there we feel unrest, we feel dissatisfaction, we have depression, we have a lack of peace. Where indeed is peace? last week I had the good fortune to spend a week in the mountains of Tennessee, in the Appalachian Mountains, with a group of devotees and 2 other swamis. We were having a retreat, and we spent the week in beautiful natural scenery. We had no internet, no television, no telephones, no cell phones, and we had daily meditation. We studied together, we cooked together, we ate together, and we tasted some peace. We tasted some genuine peace. But this peace is brought about by external surroundings. It was brought about primarily by the surroundings in which we found ourselves. And such peace always comes to an end, as anything based on the temporal must always do. Shouldn't we be able to feel that peace here too? Shouldn't we be able to feel that same peace standing on Hollywood Boulevard in the midst of all the dirt and all the squalor and all the hustle and bustle of Hollywood Boulevard? Shouldn't we feel that same peace there too? We should feel, yes, we should feel it there too. Well, if we're not feeling it there, it's because we're depending on the externals to feel peace. That wonderful American saint, Peace Pilgrim, puts it this way. She was a worker for peace on all levels. And she put it this way: my pilgrimage, she was a peace pilgrim, walking for peace across the country. My pilgrimage covers the entire peace picture. Peace among nations, peace among groups, peace within our environment, peace among individuals, and the very, very important inner peace, which I talk about most often because that is where peace begins. That's a wonderful insight. Why the efforts to establish peace in this world are so unsuccessful? Because mostly we try to work from the outside in. It's backwards. We have to work from the inside out. We try to establish peace by waging war. But Buddha and all the great sages and teachers of the world say that you can never conquer hatred by hatred. You have to conquer hatred by love. As Swami Vivekananda puts it, the effect is in the causes. So the result is found in the means. If we take war as the means, we're not going to get a result of peace. The means are the cause. Attention to the means, therefore, is the great secret of life. Swami Vivekananda's words. If the peacemakers have not themselves peace, how? How can they help to bring it about? So finding peace must start from within. Now, when we're faced with these really troubling situation of the world, the student of Vedanta will start to analyze and think about it. And first we can look from the standpoint of history. And we see, well, the world has actually always been a place of conflict. Has been so long as human beings have lived together in communities fighting one another. The whole of history is the history of wars. Athens and Sparta, Greece and Troy. Even ant colonies have terrible wars. Thoreau was perhaps the first one to notice it in Walden. He describes a terrible war between 2 colonies of ants, red ants and black ants. So it may yet take some time. It may yet take several years or several hundred years or even several thousand years for humanity, for us, to evolve to the point where we no longer resort to war. And let us hope and pray that it comes quickly. But this is the nature of the world. It is a place of conflict. And in the Vedantic analysis, as long as we are in duality, as long as we are experiencing as long as we are experiencing more than one, myself and you, we will be subject to what the Vedantic teachers call the dvandvas. They're called the pairs of opposites. And they come together. Heat and cold. They come together. They're two sides of one coin. Pleasure and pain. We like to think of them as different things. I want pleasure and I don't want pain, and I should be able to have only pleasure and no pain. But that's not what a deep analysis finds. A deep analysis reveals that these are two sides of one coin, and we can never have only pleasure without pain. They go together. Happiness and sorrow, good and bad, conflict and peace. These are relative peace, of course. These are all just part of the way things are. As long as we are in duality, we have to face these opposites. Now, true peace, true joy, we have to experience that. We have to go beyond the pairs of opposites. We have to enter into unity. True peace is not a mere absence of strife. It is a positive experience of the very nature of reality, the very nature of who we are. Let me turn to Swami Vivekananda. He says, both happiness and misery are chains. The one golden, the other iron. Happiness is a golden chain. Misery is an iron chain. Both are chains. Both are equally strong to bind us and hold us back from realizing our true nature. The Atman, the self, who we really are, knows neither happiness nor misery. These are mere states, and states must change, he says. The nature of the soul is peace and bliss, unchanging. We have not to get it, we have it. Let us wash away the dross from our eyes and see it. This is the Vedantic conclusion. Behold, it comes in might, says Swami Vivekananda. Behold, it comes in might, the power that is not power, the light that is in darkness, the shade in dazzling light. It is joy that never spoke, and grief unfelt, profound. Immortal life unlived, eternal death unmourned. It is not joy nor sorrow, but that which is between. It is not night nor morrow, but that which joins them in. It is death between two lives and lull between two storms, the void whence rose creation, and that where it returns. To it the teardrop goes to spread the smiling form. It is the goal of life, and peace its only home. A poem written by Swami Vivekananda, part of it to Sister Nivedita in 1899. He seems to speak in paradoxes, trying to describe the indescribable. What is the nature of true peace? What is the nature of true peace? Who will experience it? How will we experience it? The thrilling verse of the Katha Upanishad, which Swami Vivekananda loved so much. Nitye Nityo nityanam chetanash-chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kamam tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha tesham shanti shashvati netaresham. Those sages who realize him as the soul of their souls, unto them belongs eternal peace, unto none else. Unto none else. He who in this world of evanescence finds him who never changes. He who in this universe of death finds that one life. He who in this manifold finds that oneness. And all those who realize him as the soul of their souls, to them belongs eternal peace, unto none else, unto none else. This is Swami Vivekananda's translation of the verse. This is true peace, the very ground of our being, the peace that passeth understanding. It is our true nature, our birthright. Let us wash our eyes and see it. When we touch this peace, when we know this peace, then we can no longer be shaken by adversities and the conflicts in the life of duality. Then we can become peacemakers. Swami Vivekananda wrote a touching letter to his friend Dr. Balaji Rao, quoting Job in the Bible, quote, "Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Remember, Job was undergoing the most terrible sufferings and privations, and yet he always turned back to this. The Lord hath taken, the Lord hath given, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Then Swami Vivekananda continues, "Thus said the old Jewish saint when suffering the greatest calamities that could befall man. And he erred not. Herein lies the whole secret of existence. Waves may roll over the surface and tempest rage, but deep down there is the stratum of infinite calmness, infinite peace, and infinite bliss." So this is the true solution to peace, finding where is peace. It is within us. It is the very basis of our being. The true solution, as it always is in Vedanta, is realize who you really are. We come back to this again and again. It is, however far off the goal may be, we remind ourselves of this goal again and again. Fix our goal. It is the realization of who we are, the realization of the infinite truth, the realization of God, enlightenment. Swami Vivekananda, what an active life he led. How much he had to fight to establish Vedanta, how much he had to struggle in this country against the missionaries who were trying to pull him down and spread lies about him and even try to assassinate him. And again, how much he had to struggle in India to lift up the sleeping Leviathan, as he put it, of the Indian masses. But deep down, he was always floating on a stratum of infinite peace and bliss. So that's all very well and good. But what about us who may not yet have realized it? Do we have to wait for realization to have peace? Do we have to wait for complete enlightenment to have peace? Vedanta says, well, yes and no. That eternal, unchanging peace, which is our true nature, yes, to be permanently and fully and completely established in it, we shall have to realize. And let us hold that as the ideal. But Vedanta also offers us a lot of guidance on how to live our lives so that we may start to feel that peace. We may start to experience that peace. We may start to touch that peace. We may not be fully established in it, but we begin to live from a state of peace. And yet, how many of us really want that? This is a question. How many of us really want that? When I was in college and I first started reading about spiritual life, I read a book, I'm not sure which book it was, but I was reading several books, and one of them was talking about inner peace. First time I read of the concept, I thought, what a wonderful concept. Inner peace, to attain inner peace sounds wonderful. So I asked one of my friends in that kind of naive way that we ask when we're first reading these things, so have you found inner peace? And the reply was astonishing. He said, I don't want it. That would be boring. He said, I don't want inner peace. That would be boring. So do people want peace? No. People want excitement. People want elation. People want ecstasy. They want happiness. Peace sounds like that's lying in the grave or something. That's death. Peace is like death. This is a classic case of confusion of the gunas. Confusion of the gunas. The Vedantic analysis from Sankhya, we can look at this world and our experience and our own natures as being composed of three different strands which make it up. And those of us who have been studying Vedanta should know these. We can recite these in our sleep, I hope. The three qualities of inertia, activity, and tranquility. Now, note that inertia, or tamas, and tranquility, or sattva, they seem to be a little bit similar in that nothing's happening. Seemingly nothing's happening. And yet tamas is a state of deep darkness. Tamas destroys. Tamas drags us down. It is a state of torpor. The state between them is rajas, intense activity, anger, passion, excitement, happiness and misery, all those passions which people love to experience. Sattva is when we start to go beyond them. It's a state of tranquility, when everything starts to become in balance. Now, my friend who didn't want peace, inner peace, because he was interested in rajas. He was still in a state of rajas, and he associated the idea of peace with tamas, with a kind of death. So this is an important understanding. We move from tamas to rajas. We move from torpor, from laziness, from darkness. We move to activity, to excitement. From there, we move to peace. We can't jump from tamas to sattva. We can't jump from sleep to peace. We have to go through activity. When we seek excitement, when we seek elation, when we seek ecstasy, we get them. For a while we get them. And they're always followed by their opposites. That, when we can make that clear in our minds, we take a step forward. We stop chasing the ephemeral. When we make this clear in our minds, yes, I can get excitement. Yes, I can get some happiness. Yes, I can go to Disneyland and ride the roller coaster, and it's exciting. But afterwards, there's a reaction also. The reaction comes. And this is the reaction. Sri Krishna gives a beautiful analysis of this in chapter 18 of the Gita. He says there are different kinds of happiness. And the one that arises out of rajas, it tastes like nectar at the beginning. It comes from the contact of senses with sense objects, and it tastes pretty good at first, and then it tastes like poison at the end. It tastes like poison because it forces us to repeat again and again the same actions to get the same little taste of excitement, and then again the same bitterness. These are the golden and iron chains which bind us, and mostly the iron chains. But there's another kind of joy, where after we've tasted for a long time the sweet and sour fruits of this world, we get tired of them, and we want to go and taste a higher joy. And that Sri Krishna calls the joy of arising out of sattva. And that joy is born of the clear knowledge of the self. The mind is tranquil. We begin to experience who we really are. And he says, this joy, it tastes like poison at first and like nectar at the end. Why does it taste like poison? Because we don't experience it just like that. We have to work to experience this joy. We have to discipline our minds. We have to realize, first of all, we realize that my chasing after the ephemeral things of this world, seeking the eternal amidst the ephemeral, is a chain, and we have to start to cut that chain, and that can be very painful. It takes discipline. It takes determination. But how wonderful. Afterwards, it tastes like nectar. So we can ask ourselves, do we really want peace? Do we want it? When we can say, yes, I really want inner peace, that's the first step. That's the most important step. And then we practice according to sattva. We start to learn to taste the peace arising from sattva. We discipline and unlearn the bad habits of our minds. And through we take up intense spiritual disciplines, we begin to taste peace. Not immediately. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a boatman who's steering his boat on the river. And first he has to steer through some rough waters, and there's heavy winds, and he has to work very hard to keep the boat from capsizing, to make it through the rapids, to make it through the storms. And then he comes to an expanse of wide water, and a gentle breeze begins to blow, and he begins to relax. And he sets the sail, and he keeps one toe on the rudder of the boat, and he prepares a smoke and begins to smoke, and he enjoys peace. Like that, Sri Ramakrishna used to use these examples to give us an idea of what happens in spiritual life. At first, it is a struggle. We have doctors here. I don't mean that we should start smoking. But yes, the idea is that peace does come. First the struggle, then the peace. This is really a kind of a commentary on this verse of the Gita. At first it tastes like poison, and then it tastes like nectar. At first we have to be up and doing, says Sri Ramakrishna. The aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of lust and gold. The Bhagavad Gita, it's a great manual for how to live, how to attain peace. When we study the Gita again and again, we find instructions for how to live our lives, how to do our work in such a way that we attain peace. And how amazing, it's a teaching that comes on the battlefield of all places. A tremendous battle is about to take place in which almost all the participants are slaughtered. And Arjuna, he is on the battlefield with Krishna, his charioteer, full of vigor, full of energy, and with a calm mind. He's a trained warrior. His life is, here he's facing his true calling, really, to face evil and destroy it. But then he sees that some of his own family members are on the other side. Some of his own family members have taken the side of the wicked prince, Duryodhana, and his inept and blind father, Dhritarashtra. And suddenly he sees that he'll have to kill his own relations, his own teacher who taught him archery. He'll have to kill him in battle. And he's reduced into a blubbering heap of weakness, a pathetic pile of weakness. He's lost his nerve. He says, he starts talking to Krishna about how he wants to live the life of a beggar, the life of a monk. He doesn't care about winning a battle. No, he's just going to retire and go off into the hills somewhere and beg his food. Yet, even after making that decision, he's utterly depressed. He's miserable. Now here's the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna wanted to abandon the work which is natural to him. He wanted to abandon his calling, his swadharma. Sri Krishna uses the term swadharma in the Gita. Thus, he was utterly distressed and lost his peace of mind. This term swadharma is very important. It is to be true to our own nature, our own calling. According to our own samskaras, our own tendencies, the equipment with which we come into this world, according to our karma, we too have a calling in life. We have a swadharma. Sri Krishna says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Better is one's own dharma, one's swadharma, though imperfectly performed, than the dharma of another well performed. Better is death in the doing of one's own dharma. The dharma of another is fraught with peril. So we need to ask ourselves, are we following our dharma? Are we following our calling? Peace Pilgrim puts it beautifully. She calls it a special place in the life pattern. She says, every one of us has a special place in the life pattern. And no two people have exactly the same part to play in God's plan. There is a guidance which comes from within to all who will listen. Through this guidance, each one will feel drawn to some part in the scheme of things. And she goes on to say, how do you begin to do that? You begin to do your part in the life pattern by doing all of the good things you feel motivated toward, even though they are just little good things at first. You give these priority in your life over all the superficial things that customarily clutter human lives. Our lives get cluttered with so much superficial nonsense. We begin to forget what is our calling. Now the highest calling, the highest swadharma of every human being is to attain enlightenment, to realize who we are, to realize God. This is our swadharma in the highest sense. But we also have our part to play in this drama of life. We're not all going to run off to the Himalayas and meditate and become enlightened. It doesn't work that way. We all are called to play a part in this life. And our particular path depends on our particular nature and on our past tendencies. So if we are not following our calling, if we are not following our dharma, we will be miserable. We will not have peace of mind, just as Arjuna on the battlefield. Swami Sarvapriyananda mentioned wonderfully yesterday about having a life's goal. This is another way really to put it, that do we have a goal of our life? Do we understand how our life is to be, what part we are playing in the big picture? For Peace Pilgrim and for Swami Vivekananda, that calling involves service. Service of God, service of the divine in human forms. If you want peace of mind, says Vivekananda, serve others. It's a kind of paradox. The more we focus on ourselves, the more we focus on getting peace for ourselves, the more we focus on arranging our house just so and getting just the right family and getting the right job and having the right everything, the right car, the less will be our peace. The less will be our peace. When we live according to service, we take the emphasis off of ourselves, our little selves, our unripe egos, and thus we begin to ripen our egos. Sri Ramakrishna used to give the example of an unripe fruit, which is, say, a mango. An unripe mango is very hard and sour, but a ripe mango is so soft and sweet and juicy. Our egos, who we think we are unripe. We think we are somebody important. Don't you know who I am, how much money I have, how much name and fame I have, my great career, all the honors I have? This is the unripe ego speaking, says Sri Ramakrishna. The ripe ego is, who am I? I am the child of God. I am the servant of God. I am a manifestation of that infinite reality. So, the only exception to this may be for someone who is called to a life of intense and exclusive meditation and prayer. Someone who is called intensely to pray and meditate and go to a cave and do that for a few years. They may be, it's a little bit, their emphasis on service may be less. And yet, what is the fruit of that life? We see the fruit of that kind of life when they come out of the cave. All they want to do is serve others. So, Peace Pilgrim puts it beautifully. We don't have to change what we're doing. We simply have to change the attitude with which we do it. She gives the beautiful example of an architect who was absolutely miserable and was working so hard to get ahead of the Joneses, and he met Peace Pilgrim, and she gave him the idea of doing his work for service. And in the course of her wanderings, she came back and met him again. And she found he was a transformed man. He was deeply engaged in his work. He was happy. He was still an architect. But now he wasn't doing it to compete with the other architects and to make lots of money. Now he was doing it to serve. He was trying to serve his clients and build the right house that they could afford, which would suit their needs and purposes. And he was leading a fulfilling life. So here we see someone whose calling was to be an architect, and yet who was not living up to his swadharma. He was not living up to it because he was extremely selfish. And he learned, with the help of his teacher, to do his work as an offering. And it became his calling. He started living up to his calling, That's what we are also called to do, to live up to our calling. When we live up to our calling, then we begin to taste peace. Then we begin to uncover the coverings of selfishness and egotism that obscure our experience of the peace that it lies at the very basis of our being. In the second chapter of the Gita, Sri Krishna offers a series of reflections on attaining peace, on how we lose it and how we gain it. And of course the essence which goes throughout the whole Gita is detachment. And I'd like to go through those briefly. It's a wonderful reminder of this chain of cause and effect which leads us to bondage. He says, Dhyayato vishayam pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. Thinking of objects, says Sri Krishna, thinking of them, meditating on them, contemplating things, taking things to be the most important, making them real for us. Things, objects of the senses, even objects of thought, ideas about who I am. Holding on to those things, we get attached to those objects, those things in our minds. And from that comes longing, desire, addiction, desire to repeat and hold on. And when that longing is obstructed, when that desire is obstructed, anger, we get angry. Here he traces the roots of anger, from thinking about things to desiring them. Our desire being obstructed, we get angry. Now, what happens when we get angry? We can't think clearly. We get deluded. We get into a state of delusion where we cannot think clearly. We know it. When we get angry, we don't think clearly. We act when we're angry, and we always regret it afterwards because we couldn't think clearly at that time. From delusion comes loss of memory. We forget how we know about how to act in life. From loss of memory comes the ruin of our discernment, and from the ruin of discernment, we perish, says Sri Krishna, we perish. So, taking the ephemeral to be eternal. Dhyayato vishayam punsaha. The person who meditates on these objects, takes them to be real, makes them the important thing, is going to just follow, these things follow one after another. So then Sri Krishna says, but ragadveshavayuktaistu vishayanindrayaischaran atma vasyair vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Prasadam adhigacchati. That person attains to peace, who moves among the objects with the senses, all the organs restrained, like the charioteer holding back the horses, restrained. Free from raga and dvesha, free from that constant seeking, and that also and its corollary, the aversion, attachment and aversion. Free from attraction and aversion attains to tranquility. And then Sri Krishna describes the glory of that tranquility. When we attain that tranquility, what happens? Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhif paryavatishthate. Sarva dukkhanam, all misery is extinguished in that tranquility. One who is tranquil-minded is soon established in firmness, with a firm mind, a mind that can concentrate, can pierce the veils of Maya that obstruct our vision of the truth. And then he gives a little warning. He says, Nasti buddhirayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantihi ashantasya kutas sukham. One who does not have this steady mind, one who is ayukta, who is not focused in life, who doesn't have a goal of life, who is not following his or her swadharma, will have no knowledge, will not have wisdom, and will not be able to meditate. And for one who cannot meditate, there is no peace. And how can one who has no peace be happy? It's interesting. He introduces here the idea of meditation, the importance of meditation. So can we see how these things are all linked? We see how there are different kinds of joy. The joy based on rajas, which is a happiness based in the senses, in this world, and it leads inevitably to pain. And yet we move higher. We learn to discipline our mind. We learn to rein in the turbulent senses, the senses of horses. We rein them in. And there's a higher joy in that, the joy of self-mastery. And the mind begins to become tranquil. And as we taste that tranquility, misery is extinguished. Our mind becomes concentrated. We are able to meditate. We go deeper into meditation. One builds upon the other. One more from the Gita. Apuryamānamachala pratishtham samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kāmayam pravishanti sarve sashantimāpnoti na kama kami. To reinforce the point, Sri Krishna gives us an image of the ocean, still and full. And how many rivers are flowing into that ocean? Does it affect the ocean in the least? Not in the least. The ocean is so huge that a little river, it may seem like a big river to us, but to the ocean it's just a little stream that's flowing into it. It doesn't affect the ocean at all. So like that, into the sage, into the heart of the sage, so many desires may flow, and yet he or she remains unmoved and attains to peace. Not kama-kami, the one who is chasing after desires does not attain to peace. But when we realize that within the heart is an ocean of peace, nothing can disturb it. As Swami Vivekananda put in that earlier quote, the substratum of infinite peace and bliss. That is the ocean which we find in our heart. And whatever may flow in, it just gets dissolved in that ocean. So Sri Krishna takes us here through a clear, it gives us a kind of blueprint for how we lead our lives, how we learn, how we start to discipline our minds, dedicate our lives, and attain to peace. Later in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives further instructions on how to act according to sattva. And it's really something that deserves its own separate study. In the 17th and 18th chapters, he goes through various, the kinds of things we do in our lives, even the kind of food we eat, the physical actions we do, the physical and psychological levels on which we operate, the purpose for which we undertake an action. All these things are to be done according to sattva. I'll give one example. How to give in charity. He gives a wonderful example of how we are to give in charity. Datavyam iti yad danam diyate nupakarini deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. A gift given with the idea to give is right, to one who does no service in return, in a fit place, at the right time, to a worthy person, that gift is held to be sattvic. So, in the case of a gift, we are not to expect anything in return when we are giving in charity. We don't expect anything in return. Simply we're giving because it's right to give. That's the idea. And at the right place and the right time, and to a worthy recipient of the gift. He teaches us about the secret of work. I'll read a passage from Swami Mahayogananda who puts it so beautifully. Krishna teaches us not to shirk our duties, but to take them up manfully and not think of the result. We have the right to work only, not to the result. The servant has no right to question. The soldier has no right to reason. Go forward and do not pay too much attention to the nature of the work you have to do. Ask your mind if you are unselfish. If you are, never mind anything, nothing can resist you. Plunge in, do the duty at hand, and when you have done this, by degrees, you will realize the truth. Whosoever in the midst of intense activity finds intense peace, whosoever in the midst of the greatest peace finds the greatest activity, he is a yogi, he is a great soul, he has arrived at perfection. Of course, he's quoting that wonderful verse from the 4th chapter, Karmanya karmaya pashyeta karmani cha karmayaha sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. He is or she is a real doer of action who can, in the midst of intense activity, feel the intensest peace. This is the question he asks. With every sense and every organ active, have you that tremendous peace so nothing can disturb you? Standing on Market Street, waiting for the car with all the rush going on around you, are you in meditation, calm and peaceful? In the cave, are you intensely active there, with all quiet about you? If you are a yogi, otherwise not. So whether it's Market Street in San Francisco or Hollywood Boulevard here in Los Angeles, can we stand there on Hollywood Boulevard with all the rush going on and be in meditation? Sri Krishna, at the end of the Gita, he comes back again to bhakti, to devotion. And Sri Ramakrishna also emphasizes the path of devotion for most of us. Detachment can seem dry. We know we are to be detached, but how to do it? The easy way to be detached is to be attached to something else. As Sri Ramakrishna says, the further away we go from the closer we come to Benares, the further Calcutta falls behind. So the closer we come to God, the more easily we let go of the things of this world. The more easily we become detached from our work and from all our attachments and addictions that we have. So perhaps this is the last word for most of us in attaining peace, is taking refuge, utterly surrendering ourselves to the divine. And thus, of course, also detaching ourselves from all those things that bring us peacelessness. One of the last instructions of Sri Krishna to Arjuna, Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Take refuge with him. Take refuge in him with all your heart, O Arjuna. By his grace you shall attain supreme peace and the eternal abode. The very nature of the divine is infinite peace, infinite existence, infinite consciousness. When we take refuge in God, we start to taste that peace. When we can give up everything, when we make everything as an offering to the Lord and can say, Thy will be done. Naham, naham, tuhu, tuhu. Not I, O Lord, not I, but Thou, Thou. Then we attain to peace, a wonderful peace. He is looking after everything. My Divine Mother is looking after everything. This true surrender does not come in a day. This true surrender is also a life's work. It takes tremendous struggle. Sri Ramakrishna's parable of the bird who was on the mast of a ship as it sailed out of the harbor into the ocean and became panicked. Oh my gosh, where is land? And it flew everywhere. It flew as far as it could to the east and to the west and to the north and to the south, and completely tired out its wings. And what did it do then? Then it came and sat on the mast, free of worry, free of concern, surrendered there. So like that, we have to tire our wings. Then surrender comes. Sri Ramakrishna says, the nearer you come to God, the more you feel peace. Peace, peace, supreme peace. The nearer you come to the Ganges, the more you feel its coolness. You will feel completely soothed when you plunge into the river. So that we have to do. We come closer to the river. We start to feel the cool breeze. As we approach the Lord, as we approach the Divine Mother, we begin to taste that peace. And ultimately, we must plunge in, plunge in. I think a nice way to close this talk would be to read an excerpt, a pretty sizable excerpt, from a letter written by Swami Vivekananda in April of 1900 to Josephine MacLeod. This letter was written after most of his work was completed, and an amazing peace has come to his mind. The offering of his life almost complete. Interesting though, how much after he wrote this letter, how much he still did work, how active he still was. Subsequent letters show him still working to put the Ramakrishna mission on a sure footing. And yet, here we see his attitude of being a simple child of the Lord, and at the same time, a witness of his own thoughts, his own mind, separate from that. It's a beautiful letter. I think it'll say more than I could say in the rest of this talk. I am well, very well mentally. I feel the rest of the soul more than that of the body. The battles are lost and won. I have bundled my things and am waiting for the great deliverer. Shiva, O Shiva, carry my boat to the other shore. After all, Joe, I am only the boy who used to listen with rapt wonderment to the wonderful words of Ramakrishna under the banyan at Dakshineshwar. That is my true nature. Works and activities, doing good and so forth are all superimpositions. Now I again hear his voice, the same old voice thrilling my soul. Bonds are breaking, love dying, work becoming tasteless, the glamour is off life. Only the voice of the Master calling, I come, Lord, I come. Let the dead bury the dead, follow thou me. I come, my beloved Lord, I come. Yes, I come. Nirvana is before me. I feel it at times, the same infinite ocean of peace, without a ripple, a breath. I am glad I was born, glad I suffered so, glad I did make big blunders, glad to enter peace. I leave none bound, I take no bonds. Whether this body will fall and release me, or I enter into freedom in the body, the old man is gone, gone forever, never to come back again. The guide, the guru, the leader, the teacher has passed away. The boy, the student, the servant is left behind. The sweetest moments of my life have been when I was drifting. I am drifting again, with the bright warm sun ahead and masses of vegetation around, and in the heat, everything is so still, so calm, and I am drifting languidly in the warm heart of the river. I dare not make a splash with my hands or feet for fear of breaking the marvelous stillness, stillness that makes you feel sure it is an illusion. Behind my work was ambition, behind my love was personality, behind my purity was fear, behind my guidance the thirst for power. Now they are vanishing and I drift. I come, Mother, I come, in thy warm bosom, floating wheresoever thou takest me. In the voiceless, in the strange, in the wonderland I come, a spectator, no more an actor. Oh, it is so calm. My thoughts seem to come from a great, great distance in the interior of my own heart. They seem like faint, distant whispers, and peace is upon everything. Sweet, sweet peace, like that one feels for a few moments, just before falling into sleep, when things are seen and felt like shadows, without fear, without love, without emotion. Peace that one feels alone, surrounded with statues and pictures. I come, Lord. The world is, but not beautiful nor ugly, but as sensations without exciting any emotion. Oh, Joe, the blessedness of it. Everything is good and beautiful, for things are all losing their relative proportions to me, my body among the first. Om, that existence. So let us move onward, bring peace to our lives through right action, touch that infinite source of peace within, and thus we can become real peacemakers, peacemakers in our own lives, peacemakers in our families, peacemakers in our communities, peacemakers in the world. The world desperately needs peace. Can you sleep? Asks Swami Vivekananda. Let us touch that peace and become peacemakers. Om Dhyau Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apa Shanti Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishve Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiridhi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the heavens, peace. In the sky, peace. On the earth, peace. In the waters, peace. In the plants, peace. In the trees, peace. With the devas, peace. The very nature of the absolute reality is peace. All is peace, peace within peace. May we realize that we are that peace, and thus become perfect instruments of peace. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all.